Hello, today we're talking about effects and you'll be doing MM37 self-leveling, MM5 matte medium, MM24 iridescent and some of our dry mediums. So to start off with MM37 self-leveling medium. What you'll have to do is mix a bit of paint with your self-leveling medium with the colours you want in a cup or a jar. Mix them fairly well and then you're able to pour it onto the page. Now that you've finished that, we can move on to the matte medium. To really show the effects, I think we should have one strip that's matte medium and one strip that's normal paint, just so you can see how well it works. First, paint a normal strip of colour, taking up half of your rectangle. Then, take your matte medium, mix it with the paint, and paint on the other side. For our next medium, iridescent medium, what we should do is just mix it in either on the page or in a jar beforehand. You're then able to paint it on and you get this really nice iridescent or metallic sheen when it dries. Next up is our dry mediums. These are really cool. First, you want to put a bit of self-leveling medium down as a bit of a glue. Then you can pour the dry mediums over the top. When they dry, they'll end up stuck to the page and you'll get this really nice tacky effect.
Self-leveling medium, MM37, a high gloss pouring medium. It's basically just a thick water-based varnish. It's used to add a high gloss finish over the top of artwork, or more readily nowadays for mixing paint or ink into to get all sorts of different patterns and designs. Mixing ink with the pouring medium will give you translucent results, or the Matisse acrylic colours will give you more intense and opaque colours. You can apply the pouring medium with or without the paints to just about any substrate, any water-based paint. It'll go over the top of and hold on really nicely. And as you can see, it remains quite flexible. You don't even have to paint it onto anything. You can paint it onto a sleeve or plastic where you can then, once it dries, peel it back off again and you've got something like a transparent decal. So I said before that it was like a water-based varnish, and the self-leveling medium really is, just like a thick water-based varnish. The difference is that you can apply this water-based varnish quite a thick coat, which you would normally be trying to avoid doing with the polymer varnishes or the polyurethanes. You really need to keep lots of thin coats because of the issues that can come about with trapping water in the varnish, which can then make the varnishes look streaky or that hazy finish that you can end up with. And that can remain for days and days before the water dries out. And that's just the water trapped in the varnish. The self-leveling medium is formulated slightly differently so that the water can actually come out more easily. It will allow us to put a thicker coat down. It will still be milky once it initially goes down, and it will keep that haziness for a while. Don't force dry it. Like any water-based product, you should not hit it with a hairdryer or a heat gun because you're actually forming a skin and slowing the ability for the water to get out. So don't force dry it. Just let it dry into ambient temperature and allow the water to come out naturally, and you will end up with a clear, or obviously if you've got colour in it, a coloured but transparent film. So it's all water wash up when everything's wet. You'll wash it all up in water, your utensils, your cups, all your bits and pieces. Don't let it dry because then it's going to be much tougher to get off. So next time you want to do a bit of pouring, a clean pour, a dirty pour, a swipe and wipe, why not give the self-leveling medium a go? Matisse iridescent medium, MM24, is the iridescent, the mica titanate pigment that we actually use in silver colour. It has a real pearlescence or iridescence to it that gives that shimmer and pearlescent, opalescent finish. You can mix this with any colour, and unlike a lot of other iridescent colours that already have white or other colours with them, this has no colour with it, so it won't take a colour that you're mixing it with to a pastel sort of colour, it doesn't have white in it. So it will give much more iridescence to the colour before it starts taking it to a pastel sort of colour. You can mix the iridescent medium with structure, flow, or even fluids. It has the viscosity of about the Matisse flow colours. And because the iridescent medium has its own binder in it, you can use as much or as little with the acrylic colours as you like. The iridescent medium won't change the drying time of the paints that much, and of course can be washed up in soap and water when wet. So there you have it. That's the Matisse iridescent medium. Matte medium. What is it? Why do you use it? Okay, matte medium you mix in with the paint. It doesn't go over the top. It's all matting agent with some binder. When we see something that has a very low sheen or is matte, what we're seeing is the light, normal reflected light, bouncing off the surface and being scattered generally. So it looks matte to us. The matte medium increases that effect within the paint, but shouldn't change the colour too much at all. So as far as ratios go of how much of this to mix in with the paint, generally starting at about 10% is enough. Some colours might need a little bit more. It will depend on how much sheen and the pigment of the particular colour. So each one can be a little bit different. Why would you want to matte the paint down? Two main reasons. One, for photography. Obviously, if you're taking photos, you don't want sheen, you don't want light being reflected back. So using the matte medium, graphic artists used to work, when they worked by hand rather than on computers, with predominantly with gouache, which is a bit like really intense watercolour, if you don't know what gouache is. And it's very matte. It's opaque and dries very matte. You can turn the normal acrylics into something very similar to gouache by matting it down using the matte medium. And that's terrific for photography. Traditionally, hard edge paintings were quite matte, quite flat. They didn't want any reflection, and so once again using the matte medium with the colours will give you that effect. Another little bonus is the matte medium, being a little bit thinner than the paint, will tend to reduce the brush strokes, which is especially useful in hard edge. And one thing to remember, don't try and use this as a varnish or a clear coat, because it is not clear. Whilst it really doesn't affect the colour too much of the paint, it is not completely clear, and it'll leave a cloudy haze behind if you try and varnish over the top or apply it over the top like a varnish. So you want to reduce the gloss of your work, matte medium is your friend.
Although many artists think of mediums as liquids or pastes, we offer dry mediums. They come in all sorts of powders, flakes, minerals and sands. You're able to use these to really show the texture through your artworks or your models. One of our coolest dry mediums is our ferrous powder, which means your paint or whatever model you're applying it to becomes magnetic. We've also got our sand, which I guess at least here in Australia you could just go down to the beach and get. However, it is washed and cleaned so that anything that's soluble or hazardous to your painting really is able to be cleaned out of it, so you know that it's all pure. We've got a range of different glass beads to really create a water effect when it's mixed in with that self-leveling medium. We've even got a few minerals. We've got garnet, marble, wollastonite and pumice that you're able to mix in. Some of them are a sandy texture and some of them are a much finer powder texture. The microspheres are awesome. You're able to mix them in with your paint and get a really soft, light modelling paste sort of texture that allows you to get these really nice spiky peaks. Some of the flakes in our dry mediums range are really interesting. We've got mica flakes and black flakes hex. Both of these are quite shiny and give quite an interesting metallic effect. However, to really see the most, either using MM37 self-leveling medium or MM4 gel medium, sprinkling over the top will get the most colour and shine out of these and doesn't dull them down at all. So, the self-leveling medium and getting a bit of a marbling effect. Our matte medium and obviously making it matte. The iridescent medium and adding a bit of a metallic sheen, as well as our dry mediums and giving a really physical texture. All of this stuff obviously is interchangeable with the rest of the mediums, so feel free to have a play around with it. Especially the dry mediums that you can mix all the way from our structures and our backgrounds to anything like our gel medium and our light modelling paste. But for today, that's all about effects.